Good morning, you're back with the Crazy Art Lady. Today we're going to do a cartooning lesson. So get ready, get your pencils. I'm going to work with a 4B today. I'm working with a kneaded eraser. I've got a piece of drawing paper underneath this. And these are the characters that we're going to be doing today. Okay, we're going to talk about body proportions and size. And so if you look at this very carefully, you can see this is a full-grown adult. And she is about 7.5 heads high. So if I take the length of her head and I multiply that by 7.5, you're going to see how large she is. And the proportions, if you look carefully, you can see that, I'm going to renumber this, but you can see that here between the 6 and the 5. So if we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 is where her elbows are. Her shoulders are about at 6. Her knees are about at 2, I think. 1, 2. To renumber that. And then the hands are going to fall between the 3 and the 4. So right down here. So we're going to be looking at that. A child is about 6 times the head height, and this works with everybody. So the 6 times the head height will give you that child-sized body. Now, the superhero, on the other hand, that's going to be about 8.5 to 9.5 heads high, which is kind of why they're superheroes. Now, nobody looks like this, although I think The Rock comes pretty close. But nobody is actually 8.5 to 9.5 heads high. But in drawing, what you find is that when drawing supermodels, when drawing superheroes, the height is going to be exaggerated. And then, of course, this little cartoon character here is only 3 heads high. In fact, because it looks very young and babyish, you can see that the head is taking up about 1/3 of the body. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and move this. We're going to go ahead and put down a piece of paper, but I want to show you right now where we are. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of these things, okay? Let me make sure my stuff is there. Okay, so we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm going to put it right on the line, which I didn't initially, okay? And 5 and 6 and 7, 7 and 8 and 9, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So here you can see that. Let's go ahead and let's figure out how to number and how to line up our paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to take both sides of the paper and we're going to put little tick marks on it, okay? So here we have it. And I'm going to go ahead and lay my ruler down, and I lay it flush with the side of my paper. Here we go, okay? And I'm just going to put lines here, a little tick mark here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? So we've got 8 on this side. Now we're going to go over to this side, okay? And we're going to do the same thing. Go flush with the side of your paper. And we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now all of you should have some kind of handout to help you along with this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is down here, I'm just going to connect the dots. So I've got my first line, and then I've got my second line, and then I've got my third line, go, and my fourth line, and my fifth line, and my sixth line. 7, whoops, 7, and 8, okay? And what this does is it's going to divide my paper in a way that I'm going to be able to tell how many heads high. So let's go ahead and number right on the line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then let's do this side also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, and this will give me a good start on this. Now, chances are good with this is that we're not going to finish everything. So the goal is to take one of these. We're going to do a lot of circles and ovals and basic shapes on this. And then what you're going to be doing is that looking at your handout, you'll go ahead and finish one of these characters. Because if I were to ask you to finish them all, you'd go, it's going to take forever. But I want you to get the basic concept that we're looking at things according to how many heads high. So the first one we're going to do is this little cartoon character. So I'm going to go ahead and put in her head here. Okay, and this always reminds me of a character my kids used to watch when they were little. It was called The Mighty Bee. So let's go ahead and do her. And what we're going to do is she doesn't really have a neck. So let's go ahead and sketch this out. Okay, and her elbows, she's kind of all elbows here and all elbows there. Okay, and very thin lines for this. And remember, this is just a cartoon. She's wearing this little jumper. Okay, and she's got this kind of T here. And I'm just sketching this out, okay? And then let's get her little skinny legs. And then, of course, her feet are going to be kind of massive here, okay? Because this is the way cartoons are drawn. And what's amazing is that these very simple characters, you know, they become very popular for some reason. I mean, I was watching something. My kids are in high school now, but I'm watching some of the cartoons that they're watching, and I think, wow, those are very simple. You know, so it doesn't mean you have to have a beautiful Tom and Jerry, and but for some reason, a lot of this stuff is very simple. So I'm going to do these nice big eyes here, big eye here. She's looking off to the side. Got a kind of a cute button nose, and then a tiny little smile here. And then you're going to go ahead, and if you decide that this is the one you're going to finish up, you can go ahead and finish that up. So you can tell that there's not really anything realistic about this character. She looks very childlike, but she's also obviously not to proportion. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the full-size adult. And she is about going to be 7.5 heads high. So we're going to put her head right about here, okay? Double check my stuff here, okay? We're going to put her right there. And let's take a look at where she is, okay? So between at the 7, at the 6 is where her elbows are going to be, okay? So here's an elbow, or not elbow, I'm sorry, shoulder, okay? And at the 2, 3, 4, 5. At the 5 is where her elbow is, okay? So she's going to have her elbow here and an elbow there. And then her hands are going to be at the 3. So let's go down to the 3, and we've got here and here. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. About right. I might want to bring these elbows down a little bit so that she doesn't look too hulky. And then the knees are going to be at 2. So I'm going to put the knees right here and a knee right here. Now watch what happens. I put these ovals and circles to kind of signify where things are going to be going. She's going to have feet down here. Now watch what happens is that I'm just going to go ahead and put her neck in here, okay? And let's go ahead and start connecting, okay? She'll have a, here we go. Okay, we're kind of connecting the dots. And we're just going to come up with basically the basic shape. Now, I sometimes like to put ovals in between here and here because then it gives me some semblance of muscle structure, not quite, but you know, here and here to kind of flesh the person out, okay? Her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right at 5 is going to be where, you know, right about here is where her shirt is, okay? And then down here, and here's her, we've got her calves here, thighs here, and thighs here. And I might want to make those a little bit bigger, but you can see the body proportions are kind of coming together. So don't worry about it being perfect right now because not all of these are going to be the picture that you're going to take to the final, okay? Now, superheroes, the whole idea of the superhero is because it's very idealized. And so let's go ahead and let me make sure my stuff is in line. And let's go ahead and do the superhero right now. I'm not going to do the child today, but let's do the superhero. And the superhero needs to be about 8.5, okay? At the 8.5 mark. And that's what we're going to be looking at. So let's see, at 7, I want to put those great big muscles like a superhero would have. Great big muscles here. Okay. And let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the elbows are going to be at about 6. So we're going to have our elbows here, and they're going to be coming out like this. And so here's an elbow. And then here's an elbow over here, okay? And then the bottom of the, let me see, about 4, his tiny little panties, or his pants, are going to be coming down here. Now, I've never figured out a way to say this to a class without getting them to crack up, so good luck on that. And then 3 is going to be where his knees are going to be. So we've got his knees here, and he's kind of standing with his legs apart here. Okay, and then we've got the calves, and then down here at the bottom, we're going to have his feet kind of coming out like this. So now you can see this right now. His hands are going to be balled at the waist, and the waist is going to be at 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and put his hands balled at the waist and here. Now, this looks very kind of simplistic, but take a look at what happens as I start fleshing them out. Now, you remember, you are only responsible, you should probably only worry about getting one done, you know? You don't want to worry about getting everything else. Let's go ahead and put a great big oval there, okay? And then let's go ahead and put his hand here, and then this is going to be balled at the waist. And I might want to put an oval in there to kind of get that muscle structure in there like that, okay? Down here, okay, in here, you can see that. And then let's go ahead and do his other arm like this. And I'm going to go ahead and make it an oval in between. And then here we go, okay? And let's go ahead and put his other arm. You can see he's getting a nice muscle tone and muscle structure, okay? There, obviously, you're going to be doing some stuff to kind of flesh him out a little bit more. You know, you really want him to look superhero. But here's the thing, is I've had students that just started to make superheroes, and they turned them in, they say, hey, what do you think of this? And I go, oh, that's really good. But the problem is sometimes they get these tiny little legs for this body, and it sets the whole picture out. So you really want to kind of flesh in those proportions first, okay? We're going to go with a real thickness here, okay, and a real thickness here, okay? And then his knees, let's make them a little bit longer here. And then here, we've got this. This is where, you know, the calves are very strong. He's obviously been working out. And here, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to make his feet like this. Now, when you look at this now, okay, and you'll do some changes with it. Don't worry about it being perfect. That seems to be my mantra. Don't worry about it being perfect, because you know what? You're going to do an awful lot of changes, but to expect that whatever you put down first is going to be your final is not being realistic. So what you're going to be doing is a lot of changes, a lot of erasing. You will get there, I promise you. But you can see that what we've got now, okay, is we've got a guy who, we've got the basic structure of your superhero, your adult, and then your cartoon figure. So what we're looking at is proportion on this one. So I'm going to write proportion. Okay, make sure you put your first and last name and your period number on there, okay, if you're working in a classroom. But this is basically how you're going to be doing your proportions, okay? And then after you're finished with this, then you're going to spend some time, take one of these figures and really try to make it looking a little bit more like the original. Or you can make your own superhero if you want to make sure that you've got something like, okay, let's see. You know, as you see, what I would be doing is I'd be changing this up an awful lot. So I hope you had a good time. And don't forget to subscribe. But this was basically body proportions.